Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. Chapter 1. Playing Pilgrims. "Christmas won't be Christmas without any presents," grumbled Joe. "It's so dreadful to be poor," said Meg. "I don't think it's fair for some girls to have plenty of pretty things and other girls to have nothing," added little Amy. "We've got father and mother and each other," Beth said contentedly. The four young faces brightened at the cheerful words. Joe said sadly, "We haven't got father, and we won't have him for a long time. You see, he was far away where the war was, and may never come home." They were quiet for a moment. Then Meg said, "You know why Mother said we should not have any presents this Christmas, because it's going to be a hard winter." The four sisters sat knitting in front of the fire. Margaret, or Meg, the eldest, was 16 years old and very pretty, with large eyes and soft brown hair. 15-year-old Josephine, called Jo, was tall, thin and tan, like a colt that didn't know what to do with its legs. Her long, thick hair was gorgeous. Elizabeth, or Beth, was a rosy, smooth-haired, bright-eyed girl of 13, shy, with a timid smile and a peaceful expression. Amy, the youngest, was 12. She had blue eyes and yellow hair curling down to her shoulders. She was pale and slim and walked like a young lady minding her manners. It was 6 o'clock. Mother, whom they called Marmee, would soon be there, so everyone's mood got brighter. Jo forgot how tired she was and held Mother's slippers closer to the fire to get warm. "Oh, they are quite worn out. Marmee must have a new pair." "I'll tell you what, let's each of us get her something for Christmas," said Beth. Everyone thought for a moment. Then Meg announced, "I shall give her a pair of gloves." "Army shoes, best to be had," cried Jo. "Some handkerchiefs, all hemmed," said Beth. "I'll get a little bottle of cologne. She'll like that," added Amy. "Glad to find you so happy, girls." The four sisters turned to welcome a tall, motherly lady. She was not elegantly dressed, but the girls thought she was the most splendid mother in the world. As they sat at the table, Mrs. March said, smiling, "I've got a treat for you after supper. A nice long letter from Father. He is well. He sends loving wishes for Christmas and a special message to his girls." It was a cheerful letter full of stories about camp life, marches, and military news. Only at the end did he speak of fatherly love and longing for the little girls at home. "Give them all my dear love and a kiss," the letter said. "Tell them I think of them by day and pray for them by night. A year seems very long to wait before I see them, but remind them that while we wait, we may all work so that these hard days need not be wasted. I know they will remember all I said to them, that they will be loving children to you, will do their duty faithfully, fight their enemies bravely, and conquer themselves so beautifully that when I come back to them, I may be fonder and prouder than ever of my little women." Everybody sniffed when they came to that part. Mrs. March said cheerfully, "Do you remember how you used to play Pilgrim's Progress when you were little? You liked me to tie my bags on your backs for burdens and let you travel through the house from the cellars to the housetop. Look under your pillows on Christmas morning, and you'll find your guidebook." They talked over the new plan while old Hannah, the maidservant, cleared the table. The girls started knitting a sheet for Aunt March. At 9, they stopped the work and sang, as usual, before they went to bed. Chapter 2. A Merry Christmas. On Christmas Day, Jo was the first to wake up. There were no stockings hung at the fireplace, and she was really disappointed. She remembered her mother's promise and looked under her pillow. There was a small, red-covered book there. She knew what it was, a true guidebook for any pilgrim going on a long journey. She woke Meg up saying, "Merry Christmas," and told her to see what was under her pillow. A green-covered book appeared with the same picture inside and a few words written by their mother, which made that present very precious. Soon Beth and Amy woke too to find their little books, one dove-colored and the other blue. The four sisters sat reading from their presents. At breakfast the girls sat at the table. "Merry Christmas, Marmee. Thank you for our books. We've read some and mean to every day." They all cried in chorus. "Merry Christmas, little daughters. I'm glad you began at once. However, there is a problem. A poor woman has a little newborn baby and 6 children who are all in one bed, hungry and cold. Will you give them your breakfast as a Christmas present?" They were all unusually hungry, but they all knew what to do. Joe exclaimed, "I'm so glad you came before we began." They were soon ready, and the procession set out. When they got there, they found a poor, miserable room with broken windows, no fire, ragged bedclothes, a sick mother, a wailing baby, and a group of pale, hungry children cuddled under one blanket, trying to keep warm. Big Eyes stared and Blue Lips smiled as the girls went in. "It is good angels come to us," said the poor woman, crying for joy. It was a very happy breakfast, even though they didn't get any of it. And when they went home, the 4 little girls were happy with bread and milk for breakfast on Christmas morning, and content they had left comfort behind. When it came to present time, there was a great deal of love in the small bundles, and the tall vase of red roses, white chrysanthemums, and trailing vines gave quite an elegant air to the table. Beth played her gayest march on the piano, and Amy threw open the door while Meg did her part. Mrs. March was touched, and with tears of joy in her eyes, she examined her presents one by one. She put on the slippers. A new handkerchief was slipped into her pocket, well scented with Amy's cologne. The rose was pinned on her dress, and the gloves fit perfectly. At supper they were amazed to see ice cream and cake, fruit, and French bonbons, and in the middle of the table 4 large bouquets of hothouse flowers. "Old Mr. Lawrence has sent it," said Mrs. March. "Hannah told one of his servants about your breakfast party. He wished to send my children something small for Christmas. I could not refuse." "That boy put it into his head. I know he did. He looks as if he'd like to know us, but he's shy, and Meg won't let me speak to him," said Joe. "You mean the people who live in the big house next door, don't you?" asked one of the little girls. "Mr. Lawrence. He doesn't like to mix with his neighbors. He keeps his grandson in the house when he isn't riding or walking with his tutor, and makes him study very hard." Chapter 3. The Lawrence Boy. "Joe, Joe, where are you?" cried Meg. "Here," answered a husky voice from above. Meg found her sister eating apples. "Such fun! Here's an invitation from Mrs. Gardner for tomorrow night," cried Meg. "Marmee is willing to let us go. Now, what shall we wear?" "Oh, if only I had a silk," Meg sighed. "Mother says when I'm 18, but 2 years is a long time to wait. I'm sure our pops look like silk. Yours is as good as new. But I forgot about the burn and the tear in mine. I shall have a new ribbon for my hair, and Marmee will lend me her pearl pin." Meg went away to accept with thanks and look over her dress while Joe finished her story. On New Year's Eve, the parlor was deserted, for the 2 younger girls played dressing maids, and the older ones were absorbed in getting ready for the party. Meg wanted a few curls about her face and asked Joe to undertake the task. "Ought they smoke like that?" asked Beth from her perch on the bed. "It's the dampness drying," replied Joe. "Oh, what a queer smell. It's like burned feathers," observed Amy. "There, now I'll take off the papers, and you'll see a cloud of little ringlets," said Joe, putting down the tongs. She did take off the papers, but no cloud of ringlets appeared, for the hair came with the papers, and the horrified hairdresser laid a row of little scorched bundles on the bureau for her victim. "Oh, oh, oh, what have you done? I'm spoiled. I can't go. My hair, oh, my hair," wailed Meg, looking with despair at the uneven frizzle on her forehead. "Just my luck. You shouldn't have asked me to do it. I've spoiled everything. Oh, I'm so sorry. The tongs were just too hot, and so I've just made a mess," groaned poor Joe. "It isn't spoiled. Just frizzle it, and tie your ribbon so the ends come up on your forehead a bit. It'll look just like the latest fashion. I've seen many girls do so," said Amy consolingly. "Have a very good time, dearie," said Mrs. March as the sisters went daintily down the walk. "Don't eat too much supper, and come away at 11 when I send Hannah for you." They seldom went to parties. A stately old lady, Mrs. Gardner, greeted them kindly and handed them over to the eldest of her 6 daughters. Meg knew Sally and was at ease with her very soon, but Jo stood with her back carefully against the wall and felt about as much out of place as a colt in a flower garden. She saw a big red-headed youth walking toward her, and afraid he would ask her to dance, she ran behind the curtain. Unfortunately, another bashful person was already there. She found herself face to face with the Lawrence boy. "Dear me, I didn't know there was anyone here," said Jo, preparing to back out. But the boy laughed and said, "Don't mind me. Stay if you like." "How are you, Miss March?" asked the boy. "Nicely, thank you, Mr. Lawrence, but I'm not Miss March. I'm only Jo." "Well, I'm not Mr. Lawrence. I'm only Laurie. My first name is Theodore, but I don't like it, for the fellows call me Dora." "Oh, I hate my name, too. I wish everyone would just say Jo instead of Josephine." Both chatted like old friends. Laurie's bashfulness soon wore off, and Jo was her merry self again. She liked the Lawrence boy better than ever. Chapter 4. Burdens. "Oh dear, how hard it is to go," sighed Meg the morning after the party as they left to go out. "Well, don't let us grumble," said Jo. Everyone seemed rather out of sorts. Saying goodbye, Jo tramped away with Meg. They looked back before turning the corner, for their mother was always at the window to nod, smile, and wave. When Mr. March lost his property in trying to help a friend, the two oldest girls wanted to help. Margaret found a place as a nursery governess and felt rich with her small salary. Jo happened to suit Aunt March, who was lame and needed an active person to wait upon her. Jo wanted to do something splendid. What it was, she had no idea yet. Her life was a series of ups and downs, but the training she received at Aunt March's was just what she needed. Beth was too shy to go to school. She did her lessons at home with her father. Even when he went away, Beth went on by herself and did her best. She loved music so dearly, tried so hard to learn, and practiced so patiently. "I know I'll get my music sometime if I'm good," she hoped. There are many Beths in the world, shy and quiet, sitting in the corners till needed, and always living for others so cheerfully that no one sees the sacrifices till the little cricket on the hearth stops chirping, and the sweet, sunshiny present vanishes, leaving silence and a shadow behind. Amy's greatest problem was her nose. When she was a baby, Jo had accidentally dropped her, and Amy insisted that it had ruined her nose forever. It was rather flat, and Amy hated it. Little Raphael, as her sisters called her, had a talent for drawing and spent time copying flowers, designing fairies, or illustrating stories. Meg was Amy's confidant and monitor, and by some strange attraction of opposites, Jo was gentle Bess. To Jo alone did the shy child tell her thoughts, and over her big harum-scarum sister, Beth unconsciously exercised more influence than anyone on the family. The two older girls meant a great deal to each other, but each took one of the younger sisters into her keeping and watched over her in her own way, playing mother, they called it, and put their sisters in the place of discarded dolls with the maternal instinct of little women. Chapter 5. Being Neighborly. "What in the world are you going to do, Jo?" asked Meg. "Go out for some exercise," answered Jo, a mischievous twinkle in her eyes. Jo dug paths through the snow with great energy. The garden separated the Marches' house from that of Mr. Lawrence. On one side of the hedge was an old, brown, shabby house. On the other was a stately stone mansion. To Jo it seemed like an enchanted palace. She had long waited to peek inside and to know the Lawrence boy. "I think that boy is suffering from society and fun," she said to herself. Jo saw Mr. Lawrence drive off. She then went out to dig her way down to the hedge. It was all quiet. A curly black head leaning on a thin hand looked out of the upper window. She threw a snowball at him, and the big eyes brightened and the mouth began to smile. Jo nodded and laughed and flourished her broom. "How do you do? Are you sick?" Laurie opened the window and croaked, "Much better, thank you. I've had a bad cold." "I'll come if Mother will let me. I'll go ask her." Jo marched into the house. Laurie ran around to get ready, brushing his curly hair and trying to tidy up the room. The servant came to announce a young lady. "Oh, all right, show her up. It's Miss Jo," said Laurie. Jo appeared with covered dish in one hand and Beth's 3 kittens in the other. "Here I am, bag and baggage," she said. "Mother sent her love. And Meg wanted me to bring some of her blancmange, and Beth thought her cats would be comforting. Is Beth the rosy one who stays at home a good deal and sometimes goes out with a little basket? Asked Laurie. Yes, that's Beth. She's my girl, and regular good one, too. The pretty one is Meg, and the curly-haired one is Amy, I believe. I often hear you calling one another. Well, I just wish you'd come over and see us. Won't your grandpa let you? Well, you see, Grandpa lives among his books. Mr. Brooke, my tutor, doesn't stay here, you know, and I have no one to go out with me. Laurie led Jo to the library, where she clapped her hands and pranced as she always did when she was happy. It was lined with books, and there were pictures, statues, and cabinets full of coins and curiosities. The doctor came and Laurie went away. Jo was standing before a fine portrait of an old gentleman when the door opened again, and without turning, she said, I'm sure now that I shouldn't be afraid of him. He's got kind eyes. Thank you, ma'am, said a gruff voice belonging to Mr. Lawrence. Jo blushed. She saw that the eyes under the bushy eyebrows were kind, with a sly twinkle in them. The gruff voice was gruffer as the old gentleman said, So you're not afraid of me, huh? Well, not much, sir. Well, what have you been doing to this boy of mine, eh? Was the next question, sharply put. Only trying to be neighborly, sir. And Jo told her how her visit came about. You think he needs cheering up? Yes, sir. He seems a little lonely, and young folks would do good, perhaps. The tea bell rang. Laurie came back. The old gentleman did not say much as he drank his tea, but watched the young people chatting away like old friends, and the change in his grandson did not escape him. There was a color, light, and life in the boy's face now. She's right. The lad is lonely. I'll see what these little girls can do for him, thought Mr. Lawrence as he looked and listened. He liked Jo. Laurie played the piano, and Jo listened. Mr. Lawrence said, His music isn't bad, but I hope he will do as well in more important things. Going? Well, I hope you'll come again. My respects to your mother. Good night, Dr. Jo. Back at home, when all of the afternoon's adventures had been told, the family wanted to go visiting. Mrs. March wanted to talk of her father with the old man who had not forgotten him. Meg longed to walk in the conservatory, and Beth sighed for the grand piano, and Amy was eager to see the fine pictures and statues. Laurie's a nice boy, and I like him. We'll all be good to him because he hasn't got any mother, and he may come over and see us, mayn't he, Marmee? Jo said, very eager, Yes, Jo, your friend is very welcome.